to our Kung Fu program for this Wednesday morning. We have been working a whole lot on footwork, particularly how to move incrementally without changing our lead necessarily, and how to alter our angles through pivots on the front and the back leg. Let's keep working on some of that, as well as touching base with some Mai Jung drills like we did last week as well. So we'll get our feet in the ground and just let the head rise and fall. And looking from side to side. And we're going to go ear to one shoulder and hang. And to the other. First side. And the second. Let's warm up the shoulders. Let the shoulders roll back. And shoulders can go forward. Arms can circle back. And arms can circle forwards. We'll reach and lean to one side and to the other. And let's let those arms go nice and loose and wrap around the body a little. Good. We'll warm up the hips. Let them roll one way. And around the other. One more time. First way. And the second. Good. Let's go and turn in, lift up and out. One side and the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From the outside to the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Up in the chest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. And shake it out of the legs a little. Okay, let's go straight to a little bit of work from Mai Jung Longhorn Pai this morning. So we were talking about last time we got together how we've got these sort of blueprints for motion. We've got these exercise drills for calisthenics and mobility and strength, but that we have to learn how to take them from that exercise and strength level to how we can apply them a little bit more if we want them to be effective for our self-defense skill set. So let's start out today with a drill from the Tam Tuey system. And so this is number 3 from the Tam Tuey system. It's going to be a bit of our warm-up here. So we're going to start out with a lunging punch. So we've got back hand out to the back. We've got our front hand in sort of a vertical fist position. So this is going to connect to some of the pivots that we've been doing, and we'll connect it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to sweep our back foot over slightly. So there's a bit of a front foot pivot. Then we're going to come over the top, boom, with an up overhand and an uppercut. And then we're going to come back. So we're going to slip that back foot around, pivot, and back fist and hammer fist. And then we're going to circulate under for a back fist. We're going to go kick and punch. So there's our sequence. We're on the opposite side now. So we're going to go pivot, overhand, uppercut. Settle the arms. There's a lot of work here on core twisting motions. So we're going to sneak that back foot over. We're going to pivot on the balls of the feet. We're going to go back fist, hammer fist. And here's a nice stretch. You've got your heel on the ground on that foot, the back foot. You're turning your trunk, trying to turn it sort of 90 degrees to your hips. Then we're going to settle, back fist drop. We're going to kick low. We're going to punch to the mid-level. Then we're going to sweep that back foot. We're going to come over. 1, 2. Then we're going to drop. We're going to wind up. We're going to whip. We're going to shift that foot, pivot and twist through, back fist, hammer fist, nice turned stretch, roll down, back fist, settle, kick, punch, pivot, over, overhand, uppercut, back, back fist, hammer fist, circulate, back fist, settle, kick, punch, again, turn, overhand, uppercut, back fist, hammer fist, back fist, settle, kick, punch. I'll take it back the other way. So let's do a few more. Turning. So here's a bit of that pivot work we've been working on. We're going to slip the back foot, but we're going to use that pivot to help us turn 180 degrees. As we do so, we're coming in with an overhand from the back arm and an uppercut from the front. Then we're using that pivot. We're sneaking that foot. We're twisting. We're going back fist, hammer fist. Then we got back fist, kick, punch. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the opposite direction, and then continuing in that direction. So we go turn 180, 1, 2, back 180, 3, 4, back fist, kick low, punch. 1, 2, 3, 4, back fist, kick, punch. Feel that setup. These could be, when we start talking about throws, it could be coming underneath. I'm thinking about throws, down, up, then come back. 1, 2, 3, settle, kick, punch. So we've got a sequence of a half dozen or so moves. We're learning how to shift 180 degrees fairly quickly. We're learning how to use those pivots, pivot, change, pivot, change, pivot, change. So we get that slight pivot, just a little turn as we come around one way and the other. And so we talk about what's the sequence helping us to learn. Well, one of the things that's helping us to learn is how to take power and drive it over and down. So we're whipping through and punching down and on top. And at the same time, we've got this classic stance where we kind of land in that front hip and pop up with the uppercut. Then we're learning how to loosen up the limbs. We let them rest. We get into that lead leg so we can sneak and then whip that back fist across. And then the hammer fist follows on a bit of an angle down. Then we're rolling through, back fist, kick low, punch. So as a calisthenic, we're getting all sorts of things. We're getting nice, deep, strengthening leg work, good calf stretching, good glute and quad activation. We're getting this separation and as well, the isolation of the upper body, as well as the unification of upper and lower body. We're learning how to change angles quickly. Boom, boom. Coming on, not just change angles, but change angles in a way that are producing motions. We're trying to learn how to kind of wheelhouse through our trunk and torso, but also get these nice, long, open, stretched positions where we're kind of turning our trunk across our lead leg, again, to look for mobility and strength and unification of the body. But let's look at a couple of combinations, and then we're going to stick those combinations a little bit into some of what we're working on with our pivots. So let's take this a little bit more upright, a little less calisthenic based and a little more application based. And we've got this idea here of a lead arm, a rear arm, overhand, and an uppercut. So we're going to take our first kind of three motions. 1, 2, 3. So what is this teaching us right off the start? That typically what we want to be able to do is load ourselves in between movements. And so we get that nice exaggerated one in the calisthenic when we turn around and we do this overhand and we're kind of letting this hand go all the way to our leg, and then we're popping up from our lead leg. We're getting this idea of transfer mass, transfer mass. So in this case, when we're kind of taking it more straight line and forward without the 180-degree turn, and we're thinking of it mostly as a striking chain, we're going to think about going lead leg, reverse leg. So I'm kind of stepping in. What does it show me in that first one? I'm stepping into my first hit. So what am I doing? Let's look at our footwork that we had earlier where we were going kind of shuffle in. We're stepping in. Remember we talked about pushing off the back leg to propel the lead arm on the opposite side. Now we're going to let our mass fall into that leg. We've gotten in close and we're going to drive over the top. Once we drive over the top, we're going to come boom, up from underneath. Now, where can we add a little bit more of our footwork that we've been doing over the summertime? Well, here we also see in the set sometimes that we're turning around, we're throwing a kick. So we talked about how that shuffle in leg can also be a way of filling space by kicking and chipping low at the knees and shins. So we're chipping and we're pushing. Now this is similar to what happens in Xingyi when we're doing something like metal and we are pushing off that back leg to enter that space. Here, instead of being a palm, we're pushing off that leg, we're kicking with it and we're pushing our way in. Once we're in there, let's say that is our distancing. And when we have a long style technique, it's going to come over. So the overhand in the set, we're coming down. And that's what an overhand does. The idea is it goes over somebody's guard and crashes down. This is a pretty devastating hit if it lands. Now, here we are. If I could hit them here, my uppercut, maybe it works. But maybe the person shifted a little bit. So can we take a little bit of our footwork from earlier, the shuffle and catch up kind of work, so that I've landed in with my overhand, but then I'm going to just get some pressure into my back leg so I could, boom, shuffle in with my uppercut. Because which has our distancing? Here, I can kind of twist. I've learned in the set how to kind of rotate and create those parallel planes between my upper and lower body so I can reach in deep. But is my uppercut going to land in the same place? So again, if we use my wall hanging, my overhand is past the wall hanging. But if I shift in and throw the uppercut, I'm kind of on the back side of that hanging. But the person is still over there. So how am I going to adjust this to get in a little closer? I don't need to make a big movement. I just need through my overhand to kind of shift in and then pop up. Now, what else is this set teaching us? It's teaching us a really important weighting in terms of a lead arm uppercut, that one of the ways we can throw a lead arm uppercut is we can step in with it, or we can kind of step in first and then pop up inside that space. And that's kind of what we're getting in Tam Tuey number 3, because we've driven down and then we're driving up. Now, if we want to take a bit of distance and we get these, we got to stop thinking about these big windmill motions, because you know what? Somebody sees that from a million miles away. So how can we, from a guard position, throw our overhand? We don't want to. Now, what we don't want to lose is all that information that we learned from the calisthenic about how to use all those muscle groups in a nice sequenced chain where they're adding up for our thrust and our impact. But now we have to take it a little bit smaller. We go over, then we can shift in, boom, and come up. So if we take this as a nice loose pattern, this is actually a pretty high success pattern where I'm going to go jab, overhand, uppercut. jab, overhand, uppercut. See how we're getting all that same motions that we are working on, those shuffles, those slip up shuffles, things like that can be added into this now. So you can think about, oh, I want to get in a little deeper on my jab, so maybe I shuffle in and then I step through. Maybe that person flinched and moved back, so they're going to be out of range of my overhand. So can I then take a bit more space and come through with that overhand? Now, if they're close enough, maybe I can just boom straight up the inside with that uppercut, or maybe I need to think about shifting a little bit, boom, and throwing that uppercut. That will also give me the option of throwing the uppercut on the way in, or throwing the uppercut once I am in. So if I've gone jab, overhand, I might slip in an uppercut, or I might go jab, overhand, and shuffle in an uppercut, which is what we see when we're doing both metal and water, right? We step in and boom, we throw an uppercut, or we step through to throw that uppercut in water. So we're stepping in. We also get the idea we can hook this overhand as a way of clearing out somebody's guard. So if I've come in with that overhand and you're saying, well, why in the set does it paw all the way back to my side? Well, it's not that I'm going to pull all the way back to my side, but it gives that idea that after the downward strike, there's potential for a tug, a hook, and a drive up inside. So we won't bother with the hammer fist and the back fist and the hammer fist today. Let's take that sequence. So what do we have? We have three main movements that we're looking at. Jab, overhand, uppercut. Jab, overhand, uppercut. Now, can we do it on both sides? Let's give it a shot. So we can put our other lead in. We're going to go jab, overhand, uppercut. Jab, overhand, uppercut. Well, that's great. We're getting this nice constant pressure on somebody. We can adjust the distancing. We've learned over the summer how to shuffle, how to slip up and shuffle. Shuffle, slip up, shuffle. We can use that in this sequence now, so we can steal a bit of space every time. We want to go from a bit of a guard position here. We're talking, things are, I don't know what's going on, and boom, there's our jab. And I'm using a shuffle step. Oh, could I do that jab using a step up shuffle? So I'm talking here, could I slip the back foot up just a little? It doesn't have to be, we're not looking for drastic. Drastic is something that somebody reads immediately. We want their attention kind of up here by our hands, and we steal just a little bit, and boom, we've hit already. Now, as soon as we've hit here, we haven't really committed to that lead leg yet. We're extending into it, and then we commit to it, boom, by coming with our overhand. Boom, boom. Now, maybe in doing that overhand, I shuffled in a little bit. So I pushed out of that back leg, and again, I snuck in a little stolen step. So I sneak in that stolen step, and then bam, I'm hitting with my uppercut. So I can open up and change distance again. So you can see how these same kind of movements keep playing. Now, one of the other things that the set starts to teach us is these little sort of short pivots to change, using a pivot now to change direction. So we've been doing our pivots. Let's go through a bit of a review on the pivot. So we've been doing lead leg pivots where we've been swinging this back leg around. We've been doing quarter turns. We've been doing eighth turns. So we're shifting, we're shifting. So where do we find that in Tam Tuey? Well, Tam Tuey does that same shift. It kind of kicks this heel around slightly, but instead of then just angling the body to keep our lead leg, it gets us to shift and pivot 180 degrees. Click, clack. And notice that if I'm shifting that foot, I'm also shifting angles a bit. So here I am with that wall hanging behind me, and if I get a little bit of a pivot shift, but then I turn into that as a lead leg. Notice that that is now, I'm offline. I've shifted. So that means if someone's coming in from behind me, I don't want to turn and stay online. Doesn't make much sense, right? I'm going to turn around. I'm going to give them my jaw square. So I can get this little shift over. And now I've changed angles a little bit. There's so much stuff kind of packed in quite subtly into our Kung Fu sets that we don't often see it. We're working on those memorized sequences. We're getting that stuff. But there's a lot of little quick bits of martial theory in there. So in this case, it might be that not only am I shifting offline, but imagine somebody taps on your shoulder, and what you're going to do is you're going to shift over. See already, I'm pivoting, I'm getting that head offline, and then I'm coming with my overhand. Boom. I've learned how to kind of turn and slam at the same time. I'm going to go, whoa, what was that? Now, if I want to even increase that more, what did we say we could do last time we got together? We could change the foot before pivoting. So I could go change, pivot. Oh, now I'm over. And do I have to go 90 degrees? Maybe not. Maybe I can shift over and we can start to think about coming in on our 45s and things of that sort. Okay, so let's jump into, because time is flying by, let's jump into changing the pivot point again, like we were talking about last week. So I'm going to go for now, right leg forward. You can go with whatever foot you want. So our basic patterns were, if I keep the lead leg where it is, I can either step the foot towards my back to pivot or to the front. So I could actually pivot back and forth. I could go quarter turn, return. Quarter turn, return. A couple more. Quarter turn, return. Now I could go quarter turn, rear arm overhand. Oh, return, overhand, uppercut. I could go quarter turn, jab, overhand, uppercut. I could come back, quarter turn, jab, overhand, uppercut. So now we can start to link some of those. So our rear leg, I'm just going to keep the same leg forward for now. Our rear leg, our pivots again, are towards our back or towards our belly. And what we've been doing is we've been going back, 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 back to make these constant full circles. But now we're going to think about going back, return. Open, come back, restarted. Open, come back, restart. So we've got bop, bop. The person's moving, they're shifting around. We're tracking them. 1, 2, quarter turn, return. Now we could add some of our work. We could go quarter turn. Oh, I'm just going to turn and throw my my overhand uppercut. I'm going to return back to where I was. Boom. Well, oh, wait a second. Now I've got overhand from my lead arm and uppercut from my back. That's not how it's supposed to be in the set. The set can't go through all permutations. But notice how there's a similarity in that I'm driving it from my back hip. Boom. I'm driving in. If I want to keep it to the set, I could come in, land. So maybe this is a shift under, and I'm boom, coming up and over. I'm coming over and up. I'm shifting, overhand, uppercut. Okay, so if we keep that framework going, and you can add arms or not today, if you want to work on that jab, overhand, uppercut from Tam Tuey, great. Then we started to talk last week about what happens if I move the point of pivot. So we started out by shuffling straight and pivoting. So we went shuffle in, pivot, shuffle in, pivot, jab, overhand, uppercut, pivot to the next direction, jab, overhand, uppercut, pivot, jab, overhand, uppercut, pivot. So we're making a little bit of distance. We're going straight in and then pivoting. Because maybe we stepped in and the person sidestepped us. So we pivot to keep them on line with our hands. Okay, so maybe things are not opening distance, maybe things are closing distance. So now I'm going to stick with my lead leg and I'm going to go to slip in, pivot. So now I'm kind of moving backwards, woo, and shifting off. 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3. I could keep that going around in a circle where I just keep pulling in the foot, pivoting, pulling in the foot, boom, 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 pulling in the foot, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so how do we get active again with this? So here we are, we're talking about pulling in, pivoting, but what happens if I steal a step while I pivot? Instead of swinging this foot all the way back, maybe let's take away the front foot for a second, but let's pivot to a point where we could push. Pivot to a point we could push. So if we added in our arm work, we could go pivot in a little closer, push through for our jab, follow up with our overhand, snap up inside with our uppercut. Pivot, close the distance, open up, fire. Pivot, but close some distance. So you're starting to see now how just by making small adjustments to where the pivot point is, we can change a lot of what's going on. And we don't, it gets more confusing because we can change a pivot on both feet. Now, what happens if we want to start stepping through? We've been mostly staying in one place. So if I put my weight in my front leg, I can change the back leg to become a front leg or to stay as the back leg. So if it stays as the back leg, my choices are to open towards one side or to the other. Now, if I step and turn it into a front foot, I can do the same thing. So I could step out, I could pivot one way. I could step out and pivot the other way. So this becomes more and more active in terms of how we can keep adjusting things. Now, if I'm here and my lead leg, I want to pivot on my lead leg, I could just open, close. But again, I could change where that lead leg is. I could step back. If I step back, I could step across. If I step back, I can open. Now, what's happening when we do the step patterns? When we do the step patterns, not only are we creating a pivot, but we're changing our lead as we do it. So we could go step on a 45, pivot. Now, we can start summing those things up. So let's add in our handwork while we start to use our shuffle in or close and shuffle in type motions. So I could go step on a diagonal. I'm going to pivot my back foot around, and now I'm going to think about either shuffle up and step, shuffle in, push through, and now we start to see Xing Yi's constant pressure, pressure, pressure. So now we can start to think about all that work you do in Xing Yi, where it's constantly pressuring, pressuring. Sometimes in earth, we get into the lead leg and then do something. Sometimes we're shuffling, sometimes we're exchanging. But a whole new world opens up when you start to think about that change of foot or shuffle can always lead to a pivot. So I could take my base motion and I could go straight, 1, 2, 3, still using the mahjong. I could go shuffle slightly, jab, step in on that overhand, but now the person slips out of the way of that overhand, so I pivot and drive my uppercut, or I pivot and shuffle in for my uppercut. So you can see how this starts to kind of open up a lot more potential in the way that we're moving. So as a quick summary of some of the stuff we've been doing over the summer, we've got our 4 kind of basic directions. Front, back. We can do that by shuffling, shuffling. We can do it by steal some distance and shuffle, steal some distance and shuffle. We can do the same side to side. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We've got our 4 directions on the corners. We could shuffle, we could shuffle. When we want to hit the other corner, we're going to change lead and shuffle. All right, so at any time we can change lead to find those corners. My back leg can stay back and go to the corner. My back leg can step to the corner. My front leg could stay on that corner. It could step back. At any time I can steal a bit of space with those. I could shuffle up and step to the corner. I could shuffle in to come back. I could shuffle in and then step back. So those are our 8 directions, using the concept of either extend and catch up or catch up, extend, catch up. And then with every one of those steps, we can start to add pivots. And with every one of those steps, we want to take some of the calisthenics and neural programming from our sets that we work on, and we want to start to be able to say, okay, now Tam Tuey looks like boom, boom, shift, change, in, jab, upper, overhand, uppercut, turn, boom, boom, boom. I've got overhands, uppercuts, I'm turning, I'm shuffling in, I'm moving back, I'm changing, I'm coming over, I'm coming up, I'm pivoting. I'm pivoting, I'm adjusting, I'm moving on 90s, I'm moving on 45s, I'm moving in, I'm moving back. I'm moving, making slight pivots. I'm turning 180 degrees, just like the set taught me. Pivot, change, create power. Those are important when we start taking mass in and changing it. So if we think of our overhand a bit more as a throw, we could get underneath somebody's arm and pivot and throw. Okay, as usual, time flies by as we start to work on this. But I hope it's starting to, over the summer, get to a place where you're starting to see how you can improvise, take something from your set. The set gives us a nice linear. It gives us all this time to work on the coordination. So if we stay with our Tam Tuey, learning how to push from a back leg, how to commit to a front leg, how to drive from the other leg, how to get these little shifts and pivots around. But nothing's going to work on the linear. And distance is always going to be changing. So one of the things we end up with in the set is that we create the same distance in our movements every time we do the movement. I make a very similar step. When we start to break it down and think about directions, that whole thing can be compressed in just a little movements. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. Might be changing of angle. Turn. 1, 2, 3. Might be some over here. Turn, change, 2. And so this is where it will start to become more useful. Now, what we also have to get away from when we start to do this is there is no thought about guard in this kind of position. There is no time in a fight that I want to put my hand behind my back. So why am I doing it in the set? Remember, it is encouraging that full pull motion, really getting that feeling. But eventually, we've got to turn that feeling into where we might be parrying, bam, and throwing that uppercut. We might be parrying and coming over with the overhand. So we can't have those hands down in the chamber. That's our calisthenics. Our upright fighting is going to be a lot more contained. All right, got to leave it there for today. Thanks for training hard. We'll see you next week. We'll add some more stuff into our footwork when we get together next week. Talk to you soon.